the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends it. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! Did he get it?
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in to another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com, and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Lots of different ways to tune in and be a part of the show wherever you may be. And even if you miss it in real time, IRL, as the kids say, you can catch it on whenever it's convenient for you with the podcast because it's available.
You couldn't have had a more boomer explanation of what IRL means if you tried.
Yeah. Or try to be down with the lingo.
Down with the lingo. I'm finding myself slowly getting more and more outdated.
435-339-0321. Those are the digits to text in.
That is like 10 years old. That's like my generation.
I should just stop. If you want to text in, let us know what's on your mind. Ask a question. A couple different things we're going to be doing today. We didn't get a chance to do our previews or predictions for Utah State, San Diego State yesterday. Jason was hanging out, watching a lot of high school football. It turned out to be a very exciting evening.
Yeah, that was really nice. And I joked about my work-life balance, where it's like, I'm just take a day off in the middle of the week, kind of get away from the grind for a minute. And my get away from the grind was to go sit and watch football for 13 hours. Which I don't know if that's good or bad. It probably speaks more to my job, the fact that it's nice to have a job where it's watch sports. So
right,
my job is basically my hobby.
That's true.
But yeah, it turned out to be some fantastic games. Like honestly, I've kind of used the last few years. What was the 2022 NFL championship weekend or it was like the divisional round where there was like 4 games. They were like down to the wire. I think there was an overtime or two. I forget the exact year. Someone can correct me on which one it was. But it was a lot like that, where there was 3 games. It was only 3 games, but there was Hail Marys, second half rallies, and an insane rally from 21 points down with like 6 minutes left. So, congrats to Crimson Cliffs, and my condolences to Spanish Fork, the fans of whom I was sitting among as that slowly happened. I was on the Spanish Fork side. We sat in the visitor section for all 3 games. We just picked a spot and we go up high, and then just everyone else fills in around us every game. So we were among the designated visitors, and it was the Spanish Fork fans who. It wasn't a fun time for them.
I got to admit, and I was telling you this earlier, I was passively keeping an eye on it just with updates that I saw on X. And I saw Spanish Fork's got a pretty healthy lead early in the fourth quarter, even midway through the fourth quarter, and thought, they're going to get their first championship. Good for them. Whatever, looks like it's they've got it in the bag. And then I didn't look at it at all again. And then I come in this morning and my goodness, that was an exciting football game. An exciting finish.
Well, the guys next to us, who they were also some guys who stayed for multiple games, they just come to watch football. They left the game early. And honestly, I was telling my dad and my uncle who was there with, and this was long before the game, but I was like, if that last game kind of gets out of hand, maybe we can leave early, get out of the cold a bit. It was actually a pretty nice day. It didn't even get that chilly, even in the end, and I layered up pretty well. But then late in the game, I was like, it's kind of getting out of hand. It's 3 touchdowns. And there was one drive where Spanish Fork, if they've gotten a first down, I would have turned to him and said, all right, let's go. Because it would have been, game over at that point. They could have run the clock out. But then they didn't get the first down. It's like, well, then we're just going to wait and see. And then they had the crazy play where the center snapped it off the motioning wide receiver. and Crimson Cliffs recovered it. And I was like, I turned to him instead. I said, well, now it gets interesting. Because I think they cut it to 14 at that point. And they get the ball and it's like, all right, let's watch this out. And by golly, it was a fantastic comeback. Best comeback I've ever seen live. And heck, when I die, it may still be the best comeback I've ever seen live.
Crazy finish for Crimson Cliffs to capture their back-to-back state title in the 4A football championship after being down, and Spanish Fork was on the verge of winning their first ever high school football championship. So crazy finish for high school football down at the University of Utah. High school football is now officially done. High school basketball has begun. Which is crazy.
I think the first girls basketball games had already happened earlier this week.
Yeah.
And then the first boys basketball games, at least of teams in Region 11, I should say, wasn't paying attention to Westfield, so I don't know if they'd started earlier, but those were yesterday. A lot of teams playing down in southern Utah. I think 3 of them, Bear River, Skyview, and Ridgeline, or maybe Green Canyon instead of Ridgeline. Several teams are playing down south this weekend in a tournament down there, a little showcase. Logan plays on the road today. They face Box Elder. And then I believe Mountain Crest is taking on Clearfield. They're hosting them. The only game in the Valley among basketball happening this week.
Yeah, and due to the nature of Utah State playing Iowa tonight on KVNU, and Jason's going to be tied up with that in addition. Normally we would try to get that Logan High game because it's fun to always have games involving Box Elder. But unfortunately, we won't be able to get that one on. But we will have tonight's Mountain Crest versus Clearfield boys basketball game on tonight. And that'll be on our sister station, 107.7 FM. Cody Olson, John Olson on the call. So that'll be fun. Transitioning quickly to boys basketball.
Yeah, so it's right into it. I'm going to be the debut for me calling games. I believe will be next Wednesday against Hillcrest, which should be fun. It'll lead right into Thanksgiving. I'll travel down south for Thanksgiving, call a game, and then spend time with family
and just head home. Yeah, that's nice.
I think I did that last year too. I think that same thing happened to me last year where I just traveled south, took the gear with me, call a game, go back, spend time with the family. Just seems to work out that way for some reason.
Works out. So let's give our final kind of thoughts and predictions for Utah State and San Diego State. Had a few of you last night sending in texts for your score predictions on a Thursday, which normally is when we do that. But
yeah, it's normally our prediction Thursday, but I was conspicuously absent.
So we'll push that into today. Jason and I will kind of give our final thoughts and our predictions as well. But Jason, when I think of this game for Utah State and San Diego State, it's going to be hard for Utah State to do some of the things they did against Hawaii, against the Aztecs. One, I just think the Aztecs are a little bit more balanced. But honest, there were things that shocked me, what Utah State was able to do against Hawaii last week. I did not expect their ability to do what they did in many aspects of the game. Can that carry over against the Aztecs? There's always a chance, but I don't know. I think it'll be a much closer game. This is a team that is committed to run the ball, and they've got a 1,000-yard rusher. And Utah State has made most of their games struggled to contain teams that do like to run the ball. And so it'll be a lot different in that sense of what we saw last week against Hawaii. This is a San Diego State team that has had plenty of struggles on offense. They are one of the lowest scoring teams in the Mountain West Conference. But some of the things that they can do have, over the course of the season, normally been issues that Utah State struggles with as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, I know we keep drawing back to the Hawaii game because that's obviously the one where, it's the most recent game, and it's the one where the Aggies kind of broke out a little bit and showed what their kind of fullest potential this team was. A team that had a really explosive offense, a very consistent offense, one that can have explosive plays, it's balanced, and then a defense that makes chaotic plays. Like, it's essentially the 2021 Aggies. in some respects. The comparison isn't exact, but that kind of style, that identity is there. And so they're finally kind of being their idealized self. But the thing is, I wouldn't draw too many comparisons, or at least talk about carrying over from Hawaii or having it look like Hawaii. Because to me, this game, for the Aggies, win or lose, I think will end up looking a lot more like the Wyoming game. Close. Utah State managing to play decent enough defense. With Wyoming, there's a lot of, red zone stops. Maybe the Aggies get a few more stops against the Aztecs before they get into the red zone. We'll see. But it's a game where the Aggies play well enough on defense. And the question is, does their offense have enough in the tank? And that's going to be the biggest one here. I think the Aggies are probably going to hold San Diego State to at most something in the low 30s. I don't think San Diego State gets beyond the low 30s in scoring. I know, through a lot of the season, I was using the Temple game as Utah State's playing a bad offense, but they let Temple score 45. But enough time has elapsed since then, and we now have two examples of the Aggies doing better against worse offenses, such as Hawaii. They hold them to 25. Wyoming, they hold them to 25. Hawaii, they hold them to 10. So we have two more recent and kind of thus better examples than the Temple game. And so I can kind of maybe throw that out as a relic of, it was earlier in the season and they've made improvements since then. So I can now be more confident than I used to be that because they're playing a bad offense, they can be a little bit more capable on defense. So I think the Aggies can hold San Diego State to mid-20s, low 30s. That's kind of the scoring range I'm seeing for the Aztecs. So for the Aggies, is that offensive resurgence we saw against Hawaii real? I would tend to think it is. And so that's where it's going to be. Do the Aggies score in the low 30s or high 30s and manage to get the win here? I think they'll be decently motivated. They've really shown the motivation to improve and play really well in these games, despite the fact that it's the lost season, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think there is something to be said about just a roster that's becoming a little bit more stable too. This coaching staff has also been able to work more with these younger or less experienced players in these new expanded roles. They've had more time with them in these roles where we saw them making mistakes or struggling. Look, this is a team that's won 2 of their last 3, and it didn't really necessarily perform that great against Washington State in the middle, but there were moments where they did look like there was competency there. So this is an improving team for Utah State. And granted, they're also going up against some teams that are also struggling. And so can Utah State take advantage of that? Can they use that in their favor? And it's on their home field as well. And it won't be as cool. Conditions won't be as bad as they were last week against Hawaii.
They weren't even that bad last week.
Yeah, by the time the game started, it became decent. But temperatures are expected to be around 48 to 50 degrees at game time on Saturday. It's after the game. It's when this storm comes through and it's going to get yucky. But so it's not like weather's going to be something that'll surprise the Aztecs like it did the Warriors. So I think this is a game where Utah State, if they can build on their confidence, not get ahead of themselves. I think they got ahead of themselves against Temple. But if they can build on their confidence and continue to do what these coaches are trying to instill in them, then I like the Aggies' chances here to get another win and continue to move up the standings and end up the season in the middle of the pack, which earlier in the year never would have thought possible.
Yeah, it would have been pretty unthinkable. And yeah, they can kind of rise above the bottom tiers of the Mountain West. And you mentioned confidence for Utah State. It may very well be the opposite for San Diego State, who's on a 4-game losing streak.
Right.
Whereas the Aggies just had their best performance. I know as far as losses in recent weeks, the Aggies and the Aztecs aren't that different. But, San Diego State, they haven't won a game since they beat Wyoming. They barely beat them 27-24. And they've come a long way. Actually, the Aztecs had 2 wins in a row against Hawaii and Wyoming by the exact same 27-24 score. But since then, it's been 4 straight losses. And it's been pretty brutal. They had to play Washington State, Boise State, UNLV in that span. But mixed in there is New Mexico, which is that's kind of a low point for them. Whereas, the New Mexico game was really rough for the Aggies, perhaps doubly so for New Mexico, because that was maybe the game where they thought they were going to get their offense going against a New Mexico team that has a defense that has statistically been really bad. Well, then they go and score 16 points to either the worst or second worst defense in the conference, depending on whether you think New Mexico or Utah State is worse there. And that's just got to be rough for them. Then they, last week they lost 41-28 UNLV. This is a team that Utah State can go out against and have confidence versus a team that is trying to find confidence from somewhere. And I think it's just another small advantage the Aggies need to try and take advantage of. Because Utah State's a team that needs to find every advantage they can possibly get. Like I said, this isn't a fantastic team. It's not like they're rolling into this being way better on paper, being just, that much better than San Diego State. Because they're not really. You look on paper, there's a lot of similarities. They have the exact same record. And, there's a lot of similarities there.
Right.
So Utah State needs to find what advantages it can. The fact that they're playing at home, the fact that they have more confidence due to their best performance being last week, they can build off that. Versus a team that, is lacking confidence because they're on a 4-game losing streak. And every other advantage, the weather, if it's slightly colder than it is in San Diego, any advantage you can find, that's something that the Aggies need to be able to pick up on and take advantage of. They did it against Hawaii. Every little advantage they can find, the weather, the fact that Hawaii doesn't run, just kind of selling out on that in some cases. Every single thing that you can find an advantage in, that's the key for Utah State here. And if they do that, they're going to come away with the win. It might be close. It might be a thriller, which, for most of us is a good thing. We like to watch thrilling games.
Yeah.
But for Utah State to come out with a win, they're going to have to take full advantage of those because nothing is going to get handed to them in this game.
No, and despite not being able to compete for conference championship, despite not being able to get to a bowl game, Coach Dreiling and his staff are still trying to stay positive and still trying to coach this team to improve and go out and fight for every win. We do hear questions that pop up when I watch different press conferences that teams that are eliminated from bowl possibility, reporters tend to ask coaches, so now do you start preparing for next year? Do you start to give more time to the younger players? And some coaches might take that bait, but Coach Dreiling is still approaching every game like we want our best players out there to try to win a game, and he's still trying to stay positive.
You would just assume once you're done with bowl eligibility, the season's over and nothing else matters, right? What people don't see is the relentless effort, regardless of the scoreboard and regardless of the record, for guys to get success. And these players, man, they've been through so much. They deserve all the success in the world. So we'll take a little bit of success as it comes, and we'll make sure we enjoy those moments. Obviously, we wish we were going bowling, but right now our only focus is get a little bit better this week and getting ready for the game. And when our moments come, man, we're going to enjoy them.
I was just saying to Eric, while I was playing, what is Nate Dreiling going to do to prepare for next season? Play even younger players?
Yeah, that's right. They're already young. They're already inexperienced at a lot of positions.
Yeah, but these guys are obviously they're building. For the seniors, there's going to be 22 seniors honored this Saturday. And they're going to be celebrating the pinnacle of their career this final season, and they're going to try and get a win in their last home game. But obviously for the freshmen, it's freshmen, sophomore, it's the underclassmen. They're all trying to get what experiences they can to build on their upcoming careers. Many of whom it'll be away from Utah State. Some of them will stick around. We'll find out exactly how many throughout December.
Yeah. Text coming in on our Full Court Press text line from 8968. Let's hope that the Aggies didn't leave it all in the field last week.
Yeah, you hope they didn't leave every single positive thing.
There's still something more in the tank there.
Yeah, you got to be ready for this week too.
And then a score prediction for basketball coming in from 9315. Utah State 89, Iowa 81. And then also Delta Airlines on USU side, I believe so. I don't know what that's supposed to be.
I don't know if I understand the line there. But for basketball, I mean, that score prediction is similar to what I've seen from some advanced metrics. And I'll have a kind of an over-under on total points in my pick 6. Because this could be a high-scoring game tonight against Iowa. Of course, the funny thing is you always predict, like, okay, this is going to be the high-scoring game. It's like there's almost this, like, law in sports of the higher you expect this to be this shootout game, and then suddenly it's, like, a low-scoring game. It's like, in football, you're expecting a 45-42, and it ends up being a 21-14.
Yes.
Or in basketball, you're expecting 95-91, and it ends up being like 71-69 or something like that.
True.
It's something weird happens in sports, but we'll obviously go over some more score prediction stuff and just general preview stuff for that Utah State-Iowa basketball game. A little bit more in the second hour. Coincidentally, right when KVNU game day starts, so we'll be competing.
We're competing with JD and Stockton.
We've got competing basketball preview material.
The fight is on. All right, we need to take a timeout here on the Full Court Press. When we come back, Jason and I will give our score predictions for Utah State versus San Diego State Senior Day on Merlin Olsen Field. And still a chance for you to give your score predictions for Saturday's contest as well. 435-339-0321.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
Over the past few years, strong and crazy weather patterns have battered various parts of the country. Northern Utah and southern Idaho are not immune from its share of wild weather. Be prepared for power outages with a Generac backup generator from Golden Spike Electric. They are your local source for Generac sales and service. Generac keeps you in control when bad weather strikes. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Fall is here. Winter is on the way. And while the fields may be quiet, the work never stops. Cash Equipment is your partner through every season, offering Kubota, AGCO, and Massey Ferguson machinery. Right now is the perfect time to service your equipment, and the expert service team at Cash Equipment is here to help. Whether you're maintaining land, handling livestock, or already preparing for spring, Cash Equipment is here all year to support you with reliable parts and equipment. In Hyde Park and online at cashequipment.com.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Reminder coming up on Monday, November 25th. It's the Cash Education Foundation's Christmas Tree Jubilee. It's at Riverwoods Conference Center from 2 to 6 p.m. Chance to go and buy beautifully decorated Christmas trees and wreaths for the home or the office, and all proceeds benefit the Cache County School District. So go check that out on Monday from 2 to 6 at the Riverwoods Conference Center. So, talking about Utah State, San Diego State. Look, this is a team that has a good running back. He's one of the best running backs in the conference. This is also a team that on the other side has a very good defensive end, Trey White, one of the top in the conference with sacks. Very aggressive defensive end. Utah State has to be aware of him. However, I found it interesting in your preview that most of his work was done earlier in the season, and he's been kind of quiet as of late.
I think he has 0.5 sacks, so a combined sack between him and a teammate is all he has over the last, 4 games. Now, mind you, he had 10.5 sacks in 3 or 4 games, so this guy was an absolute sack artist for a couple of weeks, but teams have managed to slow him down. Now, mind you, guys with a lot of sacks slowing down tends to just be a factor of, well, if you put 2 guys, if you have the tackle plus a running back chipping him, that could just make it hard in general. And there can be a knock-on effect elsewhere where that much attention leads to other players having an impact. So it's not to say that he's just been completely void of impact, but he's certainly slowed down his number of sacks. And so that's something to pay attention to. This guy may not actually get to Spencer Petras a whole lot in this game, but we'll see if San Diego State as a team can get to him. But kind of the other positive with that is like Utah State has faced teams with good, sack totals before. San Diego State ranks in, I think, the top 15 in sacks in times they've sacked the opposing quarterback, largely with Trey White with what he's done. But UNLV and Boise State do as well. Utah State did pretty well, all things considered, against UNLV and Boise State, considering that by my count, and I may be off by one or two, I think I had 108 dropbacks in the Boise State and UNLV games combined. And that number is important because Spencer Petras threw the ball a crap ton in those two games.
Yeah.
108 dropbacks. And he was sacked 4 times combined in those games. Once by Boise State, 3 times by UNLV. It's a nice sack rate of 3.7%, which is puny.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You say, 4 sacks in 2 games. That's kind of mediocre to maybe bad. But in 108 dropbacks, 4 sacks is like every offensive line, coach is saying, yeah, I'll take that.
Right.
108 times you drop back and get 4 sacks and not very many pressures aside. That's something that the Aggies have very much reason to be proud of. And they currently rank 47th in number of sacks given up, 1.5 per game. If there's a team that can figure out a way to slow down an entire pass rush, it's going to be Utah State. That's not a guarantee, but it's a pretty good indicator that the Aggies shouldn't have a problem slowing down the Aztec pass rush, which obviously is huge in every game. It's a very important thing to have as part of your team.
Right. Here's some comments from Utah State coach Nate Dreiling about Trey White. And on the other side of that, we'll give our predictions, how we think things will ultimately go on Saturday afternoon.
Man, he's relentless and he's got a great get off. That's going to be it's going to be the number one priority for us. Make sure that we can keep Spencer a clean pocket. Because when Spencer's got time to throw, he's probably one of the best in the country. But we know we're going to have our hands full. I think they did a good job of dialing up pressures when they do, and getting that guy isolated on one-on-ones, and he's very successful in his one-on-ones. So Coach Bassett and those guys are going to have a huge handful. But if we can keep that guy in check and give Spencer time, hopefully offense has a chance to get it going again.
That's the hope. But Utah State offensive line has done a very solid job of protecting their quarterback and kind of limiting those teams that part of their bread and butter is being able to pressure opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah, I can't really recall a game this year where I've really felt like, probably since those games against USC and Utah, where I felt like the pressure was kind of an issue with how often, it was Bryson Barnes at the time, how often he was having to move off of his spot, and was creating a bit of a problem. And, Spencer Petras, since he's been in, I felt like they kind of improved that. And even against some better pass rushing teams, they've kept him clean. He's not had to move off his spot a ton. He does every now and again, but you're never going to be perfect. And then he is pretty good at moving through his reads. So when he gets a little antsy in the pocket, you've seen where he feels the pressure, and then he under pressure, he tends not to have the greatest throws. That's where you've seen some of his worst ones, where he airmails it or he throws it to his receiver's feet. He can get thrown off rhythm and isn't great, but at least he's usually able to find an open target, and most of the time he'll be able to at least give his receiver a chance to catch the ball. So, as Dreiling said, when Spencer's kept clean, I wouldn't go as far as say he's one of the best in the country, but he's certainly pretty darn good.
Yeah, very efficient in the pocket, and he's shown sometimes he does lock in on a general area, but I think he's improved in that area as well, where he does go through his progressions to find guys and gets the ball out in lots of different areas on the field. I don't know that he can necessarily make all the throws, but he can make a lot of throws.
As far as his arm talent, he can make all the throws. It's his accuracy, especially those deep passes. That's where he has the biggest complaint. Is it's a difficult throw to be accurate on, but he's had a lot of throws that should have been completions by most quarterback standards, and he overthrows a receiver.
True.
He's had a lot of overthrown what would have been touchdowns.
Yeah, guys are open, guys are ahead, and if that ball is properly placed, that's a touchdown. Yeah,
and he's, I think, struggled a bit there. So, as long as you keep him clean, he'll have a good passing day if they keep him clean. He'll have 250, 300-plus yards if they keep him clean, and that would go a long, long way for a win in this one.
So is it going to be a win in this one, Jason? What's your score prediction for Saturday afternoon in Logan?
So I don't think I've predicted a win for Utah State since Temple. I can't recall a single time having done. Oh, no, I did against New Mexico. I think I predicted a win for Utah State against New Mexico. but I've been pretty full-on pessimistic for a while. Not this week. I think the Utah State, it's going to be a close one, but I think their defense is going to be able to muster enough. It might get ugly at times because I think Marquez Cooper is going to have a pretty solid running day, but I think they're going to slow down San Diego State's passing game enough that I don't know if it's going to go to like them being one-dimensional in the run game, but I think it's going to be rough enough for the Aztecs. The Aggies might be able to force a couple of turnovers. Force Danny O'Neal to throw 1 or 2 picks. Maybe even get, a chaotic fumble out of Cooper, or even a strip sack. So I think defense will pull together enough plays to make sure San Diego State doesn't have this, fantastic, season performance from them, kind of akin to Temple, where they're this bad offense, they score 45 points. I don't think Utah State's going to allow San Diego State to have that kind of performance. And then I think the offense is going to be kind of business as usual the last few weeks, where they get into the high 20s, low 30s. Like they're going to be able to get to that level, I think, pretty easily. Maybe they pull off a 45-plus point game. I don't see that happening, even though I think it's possible. But in the end, I see Utah State winning this one by a score of 31-29.
Ooh, close one.
Close one. Like I said, close game. The Aggies get into the low 30s, Aztecs into the high 20s, maybe low 30s, but I've got it 31-29.
Okay. When I look at this and I look at the matchups and look at the numbers, look at the tape, I see a San Diego State team that has a solid running back, but I don't know that he necessarily has breakaway speed. He's picked up over 1,000 yards on a lot of carries. So he's a workhorse, but he's not getting them in chunks. And so that'll be the interesting part for me in this game. If Utah State can limit explosive plays, that's what San Diego State really wants. That's what they haven't been able to do very well. And I also don't think that their quarterback is that great yet. Danny O'Neal, he's a freshman, and he plays like a freshman. But this is a game where Utah State still has to be on point defensively. Keep Marquez Cooper in front of them, and try not to give them opportunities to get explosive plays. I think this game will be won and lost in the first quarter. If San Diego State feels like they can do some things against the Aggies, then they will have confidence to hang in there. If Utah State jumps on them quickly, they've already lost 4 in a row. I think their confidence is waning. And so I like the Aggies' chances in this one. I like that this is a home game. They always play better at home. They've got some momentum on their side right now. And I like Utah State in this one. Maybe not to score like they did last week, but my score prediction is Utah State 35, San Diego State 28. So I like the Aggies with a touchdown win. I think it'll be moments where it'll be close, but I think this game will be determined in the first half. If Utah State comes out and plays well early on, I think they can take care of business.
I think that's pretty fair.
So if you got a score prediction for us, we'd love to hear it. 435-339-0321. 8968 texting in. I don't know what has happened to the San Diego football program. It has been so dominant not that many years ago.
Wonder if they put more funds into the basketball program than normal. I don't know if it just strictly comes down to money, but they certainly have had a lot more emphasis on their basketball program and football. Yeah, they used to be a very dominant team. Like, it wasn't that long ago. The Aggies either didn't have a win or had very, very few wins against their football team at all in program history.
Yeah, you look at the season or the series history between these two, and it's pretty lopsided San Diego State's side. But
not so much lately.
But not so much lately. Utah State's had a little bit more success against the Aztecs, but they've had some weird stuff with coaching. They were not in a good stadium situation for a while. I think they tried to build a new stadium to kind of jumpstart some excitement about their football program, but the football program wasn't really there. They're trying to still find, do we want to be, what kind of identity do we want? Because they were known to be such a great defensive team for so long with great dynamic running backs. And then it's just who knows what anymore.
Yeah, it was a fantastic defensive team. As they said, their running backs tend to be the calling card of the offense. They were never like the most fantastic offenses, but they're always good enough offenses. And that helped them to a lot of success in wins and losses. And then they transitioned into being elite defense, but very, very little offense, and they were kind of stuck in that trap. And now they're down to still bad offense and not elite defense. They did hire an offensive-minded coach, so maybe the hope is to eventually turn things around, but obviously hasn't showed up in year one.
Right, and it can be a challenge when a coach of a specific mindset walks into a roster that's built a very different way to get them to play the way that he wants. In the portal era, transfer era, it's a lot quicker to build a roster how you want it.
So it can be.
In theory, but at this level, it's still a challenge.
Yeah.
So, you have to give these young coaches a few years to really see what they really are worth to a football team and getting the right guys for the right system, their right system.
Yeah, the problem is you have some coaches that come in and year one, it just clicks. And for others, it's year one is a struggle. Next couple of years, they can build things up. Of course, then you have coaches who it just never clicks. And the problem is you have which of those latter two is. Because obviously in year one, they don't succeed. They're obviously not the coach that comes in and just, goes right away. But are they a coach who's never going to figure out, or are they the coach who's just going to need a year to figure out? And that's always a struggle with evaluating coaches. You don't know which of those two trends it is. One that starts slow, builds up, or starts slow and stays that way. And unfortunately, the only way you can tell the difference is time.
Yes. And sometimes that requires patience, and some people don't have enough of it.
Very, very few people have enough patience for that.
Yeah. 435-339-0321. If you want to give us your score prediction for Utah State and San Diego State, weather should be nice, should be pretty temperate. There is a weather system coming into the area, but it's not really supposed to get here until after the game is over. So don't let that scare you away. It's senior day. Was it 22 seniors?
I think it was 22 seniors.
Will be recognized. So
a lot of guys who have a legacy. I know there's a lot of them who are like, hey, I transferred in 1 year as a senior, but there's a lot of them, Cole Motes, who spent a lot of time here at Utah State and played a lot of games. A lot of people whose careers are going to be honored for what they've done, either just throughout their careers in general or especially at Utah State.
Yeah, so come cheer on those seniors, cheer on the football team to try to finish this season strong with the chance to move up in the standings in the Mountain West Conference. All right, we're going to take a timeout here in the Full Court Press. Still time for you to weigh in and give us your score predictions. 435-339-0321.
Advanced Heating and AC and Advanced Fireplace and Stove want to help local families this year with a food drive. Drop off your canned foods at Advanced Heating across from DI or hand them to one of their technicians when they come to your home for a repair. And to say thank you, the Advanced team will match all your contributions and offer a 20% discount on your next service call. Find out more at AdvancedFireplaceandStove.com or call 752-7272. Donate to Advanced Fireplace and Stove's canned food drive for local families.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
A mouth-watering Cafe Sabor burrito, smothered in cheese and fresh guacamole with endless chips and salsa, plus your favorite drink, all for just $7.95. It's Locals Day at Cafe Sabor. Every Thursday, the drinks are bottomless, the chips and salsa are endless, and the burritos are amazing, all for just $7.95. There's nothing better. It's Cafe Sabor's way of saying thanks, Cache Valley. Don't miss Locals Day every Thursday at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station, 6th West and Center in Logan.
This Thanksgiving, Adams Wealth Advisors is grateful for you, our clients, and our community. It's our sincerest wish that as you host or travel to meet loved ones, safety follows you wherever you may be. Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help you secure your financial future so you can focus on what truly matters. Happy Thanksgiving from Adams Wealth Advisors, building your legacy and protecting your peace of mind. Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com to learn more.
Some people like a white Christmas. Aggie fans, we prefer a blue Christmas. Put something blue under the tree from Locker 42. Here are a few gift ideas. For him, a Travis Matthews or Cutter and Buck Aggie logoed polo shirt. For her, Nike women's pullover hoodies. Aggie plush blankets are popular. Hoodies, jackets, sweatshirts. Give your Aggie fan a gift card and let them choose from the Locker 42 wall of hats. Make it a blue Christmas with something under the tree from Locker 42.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
435-339-0321. If you want to be a part of the show, give us your score prediction for Saturday. You can even give it for tonight. Utah State taking on Iowa in men's basketball. Utah State taking on San Diego State tomorrow afternoon in football. So 11:30 a.m. is when KVNU game day coverage will begin on 102.1 FM, 610 a.m. on our sister station KVNU with Stockton Jukes and J.D. Walker. Kickoff at 1:30. So as you're headed to the game, have your radio on or listen on your mobile device on the app. And then when the game is over, after the coach and player comments are done, we'll jump on the air and take your calls and your texts to react to what happened. Hopefully celebrating another Aggie victory. And if they do, just looking at the standings, that would move them up to right there in the middle of the pack for the Mountain West, which is surprising. They'd have 5 teams behind them at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that have kind of collapsed down the stretch, and some teams that just were struggling to begin with, your Wyomings and Air Forces, but they'd obviously jump, San Diego State. They're obviously above Hawaii. Did I mention Nevada? I can't remember. But, they'd be, what, 3 and I think they'd finish 3 and 3.
They'd be 3 and 3.
And there's several teams. I mean, Nevada's like 0 and 5. Air Force is like 1 and 4. So there's some teams that are obviously below them there. So, yeah, it'd be nice. Middle of the pack finish, probably right where they were predicted, I think. Were they predicted 6th or 7th?
Yeah, the overall win total, not what we would have expected, but or hoped for. But the way things started would be a fun ending to something that we wouldn't have guessed based on how things were going earlier on.
Yeah, it's nice to maybe get this kind of fun ending just because of how bad the season went, and to get a win here. And heck, if you get a win here, like, do you play spoiler for Colorado State?
Yeah.
And maybe win a expenses paid trip to Las Vegas, courtesy of the UNLV Rebels. Like, shower Utah State with gifts. Or maybe send Barry Odom over to Utah State. Of course, he may be going somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting end if they managed to pull off 3 straight wins. Not very likely because, I mean, it's only about a coin flip they win this game, much less next week at Colorado State.
Aggies are favored by 5 on Saturday.
Yeah, I know they're favored by 5, but I'm calling it a coin flip.
Yeah, well, there's some places I've seen Utah State has this started out as 3 and moved up to 5, but I saw another place that just looks at a different set of analytics, and it's got San Diego State favored by 4. So,
yeah, like I said, it can very much go either way.
Yeah,
I can see a game where the Aggies slow down the Aztecs, or I can see a game where the Aztecs run for 400 yards.
We were talking about at the games, UNLV. They have to take care of business still, have that chance, and hope that Colorado State stumbles. That starts tonight. They are at San Jose State, 8:00 on FS1. Rebels are favored by 7.5 in this one. San Jose State, a team that was kind of in the running to be at the top, and they've stumbled a little bit as of late. But they are bowl eligible. They're 3 and 3 in conference play, but they've got a great quarterback and a very good wide receiver. It's a great tandem to keep them in a lot of games.
Yeah. San Jose State kind of shown to be a bit of a pretender after a decent start. They narrowly missed out on starting 5-0 with that close loss to Washington State. Though interestingly enough, they've alternated wins and losses ever since their 3rd game of the year. They won against Kennesaw State, lost to Washington, beat Nevada, lost to Colorado State, beat Wyoming, lost to Fresno, beat Oregon State, lost to Boise State.
So if I'm UNLV, I'm very nervous.
Yeah, you might be a little
because
nervous.
A win is due.
Yeah, a win is due, and then UNLV can hardly afford that. That would cripple any. They would not make the title game. Well, I mean, maybe. If Colorado State also lost this week and then lost, or wait, does Colorado State even play this week?
That's what I'm checking to see if they even do play.
Oh, they play Fresno State.
Oh, yes, they do.
There's still a few teams on a bye this late in the season. It's kind of weird. But yeah, I guess if that happened, I think they'd have a chance. I don't know what the tiebreakers would look like if Colorado State lost their last 2 and UNLV lost one of their last 2. But that'd be their only hope. At that point, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, so big game tonight in the Mountain West on FS1, 8:00 tonight. And then a busy day on Saturday, the first one in Mountain West Conference play are the Aggies on CBS Sports Network. If you can't make it to the game, we always encourage you to be there in person. But then at 5 on CBS Sports Network, the game that will follow the Aggie game, number 12 Boise State at Wyoming. Broncos are favored by 23. Should be able to run over the Cowboys.
Probably.
In that one. 8:30 on FS1. It's Air Force at Nevada. Pillow fight of the week in the Mountain West.
How's that or Utah State, San Diego State as far as overall records go?
Yeah, but we look at conference records. Air Force 1-4, Nevada 0-5.
This is your 11-12 in the Mountain West.
Someone
as opposed to like your 7-8
has to win. So again, 8:30 on FS1. Also at the same time on CBS Sports Network, it's Colorado State at Fresno State, as we were mentioning. And Fresno's had kind of a weird up and down season as well. But Fresno, oddly enough, favored in this matchup against the Rams, who are undefeated in conference play.
I think it just kind of speaks to the fact that 0 people respect Colorado State's 5-0 record in the Mountain West. And there is justification for that, considering they have not and will not face Boise State or UNLV in the regular season. So there's some justification to that. And Fresno State has kind of that more internal respect, even though Fresno State has had a lot more stumbling and some more embarrassing stumbling, losing to both Hawaii and Air Force.
Yeah, that's just bad.
You'd think some of that respect would have been lost, but there's just kind of that internal respect for Fresno State on those lines, or just more so like a slap in the face to Colorado State. But this is probably the Rebels' best last chance, unless they want to become really big Utah State fans next week, of them getting into the title game. And a few weeks ago, I was looking at this being like a marquee matchup, and now it feels a little underwhelming because Fresno State's kind of dropped off.
Yeah, they've been kind of mediocre.
Because this might have potentially been Fresno State's chance to like leap ahead in the chance to get in the conference title game. But they're 2 losses to Hawaii and Air Force removed from that even possibly happening.
Yeah, Bulldogs are still fighting for bowl eligibility. They're 5-5, so they still have a lot on the line. To play for.
They got to win either this week against Colorado State or next week at UCLA. Both very winnable games, but you got to get one of them, or it's going to be a really embarrassing collapse. 4 straight losses, 4 straight games that have been on the eve of bowl, the edge of bowl eligibility, and to lose that, holy cow,
that's bad. A couple texts rolling through, 8968. It would be too bad if the Aggies spoiled Colorado State's title hopes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be too bad, wouldn't it?
Too bad. And then 8908, does the Mountain West have a certain number of bowl games to fill, and would there be enough 6+ win Mountain West teams? So the Mountain West does have a certain number of bowl tie-ins, and there's a likelihood that the Mountain West could get to 6 bowl-eligible teams. And to do that, Fresno needs to win 1 more, and New Mexico needs to win 1 more. And odds are there that they could. But if the Mountain West, it's not like there's a guarantee, just the Mountain West has the tie-in, and these bowls have backups. So if they have a connection with the conference that can't fill enough positions, they go to an alternate conference to find a team to fill that spot.
Yeah, so it's not like if the Mountain West doesn't have enough bowl-eligible teams, they send a non-bowl eligible team. It's just like, and I don't think that's what the texter was implying, but they might fill all theirs. But wasn't it last year Utah State went to what was the name of it? Was the First Responder? Was that last year? Against Memphis? No, it was Potato Bowl was last year. Excuse me. First Responder was 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Potato Bowl was last year. But so it would have been 2 years ago. The First Responder Bowl was not a Mountain West specific. It was kind of a group of 5, I think, affiliation. So it wasn't a Mountain West specific bowl, but they ended up there. And I don't know how bowl selection really works. I get a lot of people doing bowl predictions. I'm like, how on earth? It's a tangled web that I have no interest in getting into as far as specifically which one has a tie-in and which one is there. It's like, they're going to go to one of these bowls, guys. They're either going to go to Idaho or Arizona or New Mexico. It's it's probably one of those 3.
Yeah. So
or Texas.
The Potato Bowl has a strong Mountain West tie-in.
Yeah.
The New Mexico Bowl has a strong Mountain West tie-in. The Hawaii Bowl has a strong Mountain West tie. The LA Bowl is supposed to be the Mountain West Conference champion. There's the Arizona Bowl.
Yeah, those are kind of the five
main ones. And then usually there's something in the Dallas metro area where there's like 3 other bowls that happen in that area that the Mountain West has connections
Yeah,
with.
so I'm looking up websites. This is where I'm getting this info from. But you got the Boca Raton Bowl, the Cure Bowl, the Frisco Bowl, and the First Responder Bowl. The Aggies have played in 2 of those in the last 6 years.
There you have it. All right, we've got to take another time out. More on the other side with love to get your score predictions as well for Utah State and San Diego State on Saturday.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice, and I'm here with Barbara. Barbara, how did you become acquainted with Primrose?
I had been trying to get another company to come and help me, and I had waited about 2 weeks, and I needed a bath. My neighbor suggested that she would make a few phone calls, and that very afternoon, Mark Stokes was sitting in my front room, and he said, "What do you need?"
Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
We do have snow and ice and cold in the forecast for this weekend. That can be tough on your wiper blades. Napa Auto Parts features long-lasting silicone wiper blades from Rain-X and Trico. Stop in for a new set. You can even help install them for you if you need the help. Napa Auto Parts, locally owned from Preston to Providence. So, big weekend for Utah State cross country. They're headed to the national championships taking place early in the morning tomorrow in Madison, Wisconsin. Who decides to go to Madison, Wisconsin for a cross-country national championship?
In November.
In late November, no less.
Like, this is honestly bordering on close to the worst time to be in Wisconsin, only beaten out by late December, January, and February. If you're going to pick half of the year to be in Wisconsin, this wasn't it. But I guess maybe they'll just, do they have to run it outdoors? It's not the indoor track season.
It's outdoor cross country. So the women's 6K starts at 8:20 a.m. our time. The men's 10K starts at 9:10. And this has been a special year for Utah State cross country. We really haven't talked about them very much, but USU making their 5th ever team appearance at the NCAA championship. So pretty exciting stuff for the Aggies.
Yeah, it should be absolutely incredible for them. It's a great opportunity. Obviously, with track and field, it's hard to pull an upset for a really high finish. But this is a very good team. I've seen the notes. Obviously, I'm not much of a track or cross country guy. I do not have the knowledge to really be able to break this down. But I have seen the numbers and the rankings, and it's like, this is a special season for them. And what's been a good program, and this is kind of one of their peak years.
Yeah, Coach Artie Golden certainly very under the radar, one of the most successful coaches at Utah State in athletics, and what he does with that team, and bringing in recruits that aren't necessarily the highest rated, but turning them into conference contenders and taking them onto a championship, NCAA championship level races. So pretty exciting stuff. We wish them the best of luck, and they race early tomorrow morning in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah, good luck, guys. Stay warm. Don't come home with like frostbite on your feet.
I hope they come back with all their fingers and toes.
It's like, especially because their toes are a lot more valuable than, say, mine.
That's true.
They really, really need those.
All right, stick around. Next hour, we'll preview Utah State and Iowa, a big matchup, a big non-conference showdown for Utah State men's basketball taking place in Kansas City. We'll discuss that next hour here on the Full Court Press.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. 5 former transfers have won the Heisman Trophy over the last 7 years, but if that wasn't evidence enough of the transfer portal's impact, the current college football landscape could be the perfect indication of its power. Just look at all the transfers currently projected to be involved in the 12-team playoff. Ohio State is the current favorite to win the title, with transfers at quarterback and running back. Indiana, shockingly, is in the playoff hunt. First-year head coach Curt Cignetti. They added nearly 30 transfers to the program. Miami sits atop the ACC, thanks in large part to the transfer quarterback Cam Ward. And Jackson Dart and a group of talented players in the trenches have helped turn Ole Miss into a legitimate contender. Now, that doesn't mean high school recruits are becoming obsolete, but with the amount of talent hitting the portal every offseason, if a program wants to compete for national titles, dominating the transfer portal is certainly starting to become more of a necessity than a luxury. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.